Awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is Christina Kay, and I am the Hug leader for the eCommerce HubSpot user group. And today we have the honor of having Connor here talking about how HubSpot CMS can be used for e-commerce. So for everybody watching right now, you can ask questions in the Q&A, and I am going to kind of field those questions to Connor at the end. But I'm going to shoot it over to Connor to do his intro and get us started.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So for everyone, we're going to be talking about HubSpot CMS and e-commerce, and we're going to go through a couple of different versions. I know lots of folks on the marketing automation side are familiar with Shopify and different solutions that they might be using on the e-com side. And we want to talk through what you can do if you're using CMS. And we've had a lot of success doing this in a whole bunch of different ways. Before I go into those pieces, I should tell you who I am. I'm Connor. I live in New York City. I'm the CEO of Aptitude 8, which I'll touch on, but is an elite solutions partner in the HubSpot universe. And then also A Labs, which builds HubSpot products. And so we build all sorts of stuff on CMS and the entirety of the HubSpot platform. On our services side, we have sort of 4 different services teams. Our RevOps team does exclusively CMS work. And so we do lots and lots of cool stuff on the CMS platform. And then have a variety of other services teams that we work with our customers on as well. And then with our A Lab side on products, we're going to talk a little bit about Zebra today, which is our newest product. But we have a whole bunch of different products that are in the marketplace. All of these are in the HubSpot ecosystem. You can go and install them today and now. And if any of these look interesting, more than happy to connect you with folks on our side. But I know a thing or two about CMS and a thing or two about e-commerce. And so I'm excited to share a whole bunch of that with you guys today. So we're going to talk through 3 sort of different levels of HubSpot CMS and how it ties into e-commerce. So we sort of look at this as there's basic e-commerce. So this is using HubSpot's new payments product, which is awesome. If you are a business that doesn't do any e-commerce today, HubSpot Payments is a really, really awesome, quick and easy way to get started using HubSpot Payments and sort of diving into e-commerce. We're going to talk about advanced e-commerce, so how you can actually use the Shopify checkout API and do headless CMS solutions so that you can get all the benefits of building on HubSpot CMS while still being able to do advanced e-commerce functionality like add to cart and some of the other functionalities you'll see there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about subscriptions and HubSpot memberships and how you can use CMS, especially we've seen a lot of success for companies, professional associations, folks that put out different content, having premium tiers and memberships and subscriptions with their audience, and then having content actually be hidden and sharing the access to that content based on whether or not they're paying for access. So we're going to talk through that as well. If you have questions on any of these, throw them in the chat. More than happy to talk through some of those at the tail end of this. And if you are attending virtually and a burning question of yours doesn't get answered, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. Cool. Let's talk about CMS Hub and HubSpot Payments. And so we really look at this as out-of-the-box e-commerce. HubSpot has done tons of investing in HubSpot Payments. HubSpot Payments is awesome. It's really, really easy to use. Really what this does, right? So with CMS Hub, you can really easily add a checkout or a purchase link onto any of your HubSpot CMS pages. And what this means, there's a couple of limitations here, and where HubSpot CMS is really, really strong is all of the WYSIWYG, build a page, have your templates, all of the advantages of sort of connecting that into your marketing automation infrastructure you get with CMS, but you can add payments and collect credit cards and process transactions directly on your website using CMS Hub and HubSpot Payments. The limitations that you're going to run into here is there is no cart. So we really look at this as single SKU checkout. So you can't add a whole bunch of items. You're really looking at, I want to buy or sell one thing. Really awesome if you have limited SKUs that you might be selling, or your customers usually need to buy one SKU at a time. And then you're also not going to have a lot of subscription or recurring revenue management with this kind of the solution. So if we want to go a little bit more advanced than sort of basic HubSpot payments, we want to look at using Shopify's API and how you guys can actually build full e-commerce solutions on CMS Hub using Shopify headlessly. So what that means when we're talking about this is we essentially embed and manage all of our checkout experience using Shopify's checkout widget APIs. And so all of your front end, all of your website, all of your products, everything that's showing up on the web page is all served and driven by CMS Hub. And then the checkout checkout experience. So when people are actually adding things to cart, you're using sort of an on-click JavaScript as people are adding pieces. You're sending that into your Shopify checkout cart. And then when someone goes through the checkout flow, that's all driven by Shopify. And so this gives you kind of the best of both worlds, where you can be running everything out of CMS Hub and you can be managing all of your content out of CMS Hub. All of that ties back into your HubSpot marketing automation infrastructure, but the checkout experience is all driven by Shopify. And so you don't have to worry about building and customizing a e-commerce checkout flow, which is where things start to get really dicey, and where Shopify really adds tremendous value to sort of that whole build. So what this kind of looks like, right, is that front end being all CMS Hub, everything is served by CMS Hub and HubSpot. And then when folks actually go through and proceed to checkout, you're going to push that cart data into the Shopify API and then serve a Shopify checkout experience and a Shopify payment. Using the out-of-the-box HubSpot and Shopify integration, this will then create that deal with those line items in your HubSpot portal. So you can start doing all of your marketing automation and everything that you want to kind of manage on that front. And then you can get a whole bunch more custom if you want to from there. But this is relatively straightforward. It's something that any sort of front-end CMS web developer should be able to manage. And then that way you don't have to worry about checkouts. You don't have to worry about building that custom solution. You can use Shopify to power that. And you sort of get the best of both of those worlds. So what this actually looks like when you sort of create everything together, right, is you can use HubSpot and all of that Shopify information to sync all of your products, your contacts, your orders. That's all through the standard Shopify connector. That's going to let you do all sorts of cool automation on the HubSpot side, using HubSpot's workflows and automation engine. And then you can report on all of that Shopify data as well. But you get the benefits of building all of this on CMS Hub. And you can also build everything much more sort of robust and custom than if you were sort of use a standard Shopify theme or something else to that effect, because CMS Hub is sort of that full content management solution. And there's lots of templates that are sort of pre-built for e-commerce as well, that if you did want to do more of a quick start, you can kind of manage that and then connect it back to that Shopify checkout. So we've done this for a couple of different customers, universities that are selling courses, people that are doing sort of different types of content or physical products and need a lot of the marketing automation firepower of HubSpot. And they want to be able to then manage their content on CMS and get all the benefits that they get from HubSpot CMS platform, and then be able to still manage that checkout flow and be able to collect credit cards and process everything else on the Shopify side. So CMS and Shopify is an awesome solution. We've built it a whole bunch of different times. You basically headlessly manage those two things together, get all the benefits of CMS Hub, all the benefits of Shopify, don't really have to compromise between those two. And you can sort of supercharge a lot of your e-commerce business with some of that HubSpot automation, HubSpot marketing, all of the Ops Hub stuff. Lots of cool things you can do there. We've also seen some really interesting use cases where we can use Ops Hub to actually connect to the Shopify API, and either dynamically create products or update customers or provision codes, all off of HubSpot side information. So the cool part about all of this is you get sort of full HubSpot platform plus CMS, and you can still manage sort of that simple e-commerce checkout flow using Shopify and syncing all of those orders together as well. So the last thing we want to talk about, we're going to give an example with Zebra, but you can do this similarly, even if you aren't using Zebra, which is our product at all. But Zebra makes it a little bit easier, which is memberships and courses and controlling access to different parts of your site based off of some kind of a membership or subscription or payment flow and process. So we've seen this work for customers who, an example I gave earlier was Professional Association. They both sell sort of like monthly reports or quarterly reports. And so they'll sell those one-off. It's $500. You can buy a report. Or perhaps you're a member, you're paying monthly dues, and then the report is going to get generated every quarter. And if you are already paying dues, either you can access that content because you're a member, or you want to be able to give that access to that content at a discounted price. Building infrastructure to do all of that is extremely hard. However, doing this on HubSpot is really easy. And so we want to talk a little bit about how you can bring that payment and membership data back into HubSpot, and then how you'll use memberships to control access to that content. So The first piece is HubSpot membership. So if you're not familiar with HubSpot memberships, it's awesome. It is a CMS Hub enterprise feature. And what it allows you to do is publish content in the HubSpot CMS as private. So you can do that as password required. So maybe you wanted, if you've ever accessed like HubSpot beta documentation, that's how a lot of that gets published. But you can also do it as registration required. So what registration required means is that when somebody goes to access that page, they will get automatically served with a login screen. And so how you actually control who should be able to access that content is all with HubSpot lists. So you can essentially gate any blog, page, knowledge base article, anything that's published on HubSpot. You can make it so that someone cannot access that page unless they are on a specific list. And so when they register and they're cookied through HubSpot, we know who they are, we know what list they're on, and we know whether or not they should access that particular piece of content. And so how this ties into e-commerce, right, is we can actually start using the membership access off of lists, and we can control who has the ability to access that page and limit the access to that page to only people that are paying us and are part of our membership experience. And so the way that that actually can work is we have a product called Zebra. It connects HubSpot to Stripe, syncs all of your subscriptions, your transactions, takes your existing Stripe account, and it lets you create and charge and process payments from customers all from within the HubSpot CRM. But the advantage of this, when we tie into some of that memberships content, right, is that we can charge that customer. We can report on a list in HubSpot that says contact has a Zebra subscription whose status equals active. And then our list access for that page, right? If we go back to kind of our memberships concept, can say the only people that can access this page are people who have an active subscription. And so Stripe can manage all of our subscription data, our membership information, the transactions for whether or not someone should have access to a particular piece of content. And what I think is cool about this is we not only see this for companies whose core business is selling content, right? So courses, anybody who does different membership programs or private clubs, but we see a lot of businesses do this where they can actually add on this to their existing function. So if you're a services organization, maybe you want to give access to your premium content or give people access to it early and only show that page for people who are on that list, and then it'll become available to everybody. Or maybe you want to provide different pages like accessing your support team or doing live chat to people who have certain levels of product and subscription from your Stripe account. And by using Zebra and syncing all of that together, you can manage and serve all of that content directly from HubSpot using all of those CMS memberships, and then manage whether or not someone should be able to see it all within that CMS by simply just saying, are they on this smart list? So really, really awesome way to manage sort of e-commerce and start selling content online without having to sort of build a lot of complex infrastructure to serve and manage that content across the board. So with Zebra available in the marketplace, if anyone is using Stripe, is using HubSpot, we'd love to talk to you and show you how it works. But when someone actually goes in and wants to access any of that premium content, you can serve them with payment and checkout flows, sync that back in either one time if you want to sell a report for $500 one time someone buys it, downloads it, or if you want to be able to have sort of memberships and subscriptions and be allowing people access to content based on whether or not they're currently paying and whether or not they have an active credit card on file. So being able to connect HubSpot back into Stripe, being able to control access to those content gives you tons of functionality with CMS and really allows you to extend what you're capable of doing with that HubSpot CMS across the board. So when someone goes to check out, they want to access a private page, we can direct them to the Zebra checkout flow. We can manage that Zebra data and sync it back to HubSpot from Stripe. All of that's processed on Stripe as well. So again, showing the example of HubSpot CMS managing sort of that whole front end, but not necessarily you needing to custom build any of the checkout flow or payment infrastructure. All of that runs through Stripe. And then you can sync all of that together. And so that becomes your CRM has every customer, every transaction, every subscription, all right within the HubSpot record. And you can kind of see all of that data together and control access to any of that content. So really awesome way. If you're not doing any private content today, it's awesome. We've seen lots of customers add sizable new revenue streams by starting to release private content or giving content only to certain types of customers or tiers of customers to sort of add value to an offering that otherwise you might not be able to. So especially in professional services organizations, any professional association, anything where you're charging customers on a regular basis, really awesome way to create a lot of value add to that particular audience. So those are high level, big examples. What we've been seeing a lot with CMS and e-commerce is the ability to really leverage HubSpot CMS for what it's amazing at, which is that easy content provisioning, content access, being able to control and serve dynamic content based off of HubSpot CMS lists and all of those other pieces, and also be able to tie that into an e-commerce experience and really extend your ability to transact, really make your website a store, regardless of what type of business you are. And I think everybody today, we're seeing a lot of trend towards every business really wanting to be and add more fintech, more e-commerce, even if that's not their core business. And a lot of e-commerce companies trying to deliver a lot more personalized and tailored experience to their customers, which HubSpot CMS is awesome at. So that's everything that I pre-prepared to share with you guys. And then more than happy to touch on questions either from you, Christina, or folks in general. I know I saw one in here, but I'll let you sort of MC it. And you might have some direct to you as well.
Yeah, sure. So you can go right ahead and answer that question if you want. For people for the recording, the question is, on the front end, can we keep the design of the HubSpot theme on Shopify pages, right? Or is it a dedicated Shopify payment page with Shopify's design?
Yeah, excellent question. You can, and I'll go back to sort of the slide that shows that so people kind of know what we're talking about here, which is this sort of checkout flow. So you kind of have two options here. So one is you can use all of this on the Shopify API side. So an example there would be you're building your entire front end, you're controlling your entire front end. All you're doing is pulling up Shopify's checkout flow and then pulling in their sort of PCI compliant credit card transaction fields, entering all of that. And then you're just sending that to Shopify as an API packet. And so you have full control over that front end. The other option is if you want to simplify that a little bit or you want to sort of reduce complexity, you could take somebody from your front end CMS experience and then send that, like redirect them over to your Shopify checkout and just inject all of those products directly into their cart. We typically build the former so that you have more control over the site, but all you're really using Shopify for, not at all dissimilar from kind of our Stripe example back over here, is to manage that checkout experience and to do sort of all of that credit card piece so that you don't have to build that component and you still get all the benefits of sort of building everything on HubSpot. And where we run into lots of things, people say, oh, well, I want to do add to cart and HubSpot payments won't let me do that. By doing Shopify with sort of that headless flow, you're really unlimited in how complex of a checkout flow you want to do, because obviously Shopify has the most robust checkout flow that you might be able to add on.
And Max has a question for you, Connor. And is it Zebra?
Zebra, Z-A-Y-B-R-A.
Got it. Does Zebra interact with the new invoice and payment objects that HubSpot added for HubSpot payments? Or is it or does it use separate custom objects? That was a mouthful. Goodness, sorry.
Great question. Someone is very competent. What's up, Max? On all of the HubSpot. So today, Zebra creates everything as custom objects. The reason for that is that the APIs for commerce objects aren't something that we can access yet. And on the app side, I think that those are planned to come available later this year, in which case we'll move everything over to those e-commerce objects. As an app partner today, we can't. So there's two tiers of Zebra. One will work even if you don't have access to custom objects. So we actually create subscriptions and transactions in HubSpot as deals. So you don't have to have access to those custom objects. And then if you are on enterprise, then we can send over Zebra subscriptions. It's a custom object we create in your portal. And then the same concept for Zebra transactions. So today they're full custom objects that we're provisioning. In the future, assuming that some of those e-commerce objects are both exposed to us and give us all the functionality that we need, we'll move everything over. But we have talked to the HubSpot product team about doing that already.
Awesome. Thank you, Connor. So I'm going to throw some questions at you, and
Sure.
this I did not prepare him for these. So, but in terms of like using within HubSpot, like what workflows would you recommend e-commerce like brands using?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest ones, obviously, right? The simple stuff is abandoned cart, right? But I think that
Mm-hmm.
the other piece is if you are able to sync all of that data. So if you're using Shopify, you have order history. If you're using a different sort of e-commerce solution, or maybe you built something custom and you're sending that data into HubSpot, I think
Mm-hmm.
some of the value of HubSpot is you have really, really powerful list building tools and really powerful workflow tools. And so you can actually hyper target folks based off of their purchase history and really drive dynamic sort of communication. So something we've seen that's really effective is customers that are able to actually reduce their I'm going to use the wrong e-commerce word because I'm sure that there's a very cool buzzwordy term for this, but to increase sort of their basket size by going and saying
Mm-hmm.
how frequently does this person order? Are they a
Yep.
big spender? And let's not send them abandoned cart. Like here's a
Yep.
promo code, because they're actually going to buy. They buy all the time. And we can actually use a workflow to say, go and check, are they on our list of someone who's going to buy anyway, regardless of whether we
Mm-hmm.
send them the promo code. And if yes, wait. And if no, let's send them an email with a promo
Mm-hmm.
code. And just by adding some of that smart logic and decisions on the HubSpot end, and the HubSpot automation engine is obviously extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll allow you to be able to kind of segment those audiences and control who you're sending discounts to or who you're sending promos to. So I think abandoned cart, I think segmenting some of your communications on who you're sending some of those promo code messages to. And then the other thing I'd look at is like win back. Think about what if you sell consumable products, like how you should be automatically re-engaging folks as soon as that consumption period is over. We see a lot where with hybrid e-commerce, I'm going to hit stop share only so our faces get bigger. We've seen a lot with hybrid e-commerce. So we have a customer who sells both medical devices and then consumables that go into those medical devices. And so by looking at and figuring out what's the consumption and the average order history for folks that are buying those products, and then setting up workflows to reach out to somebody and say, hey, we think that you're running low and you should reorder. And that can tick up their order volume by 30-40% and sort of shorten those overall sales cycles, and also avoid someone ordering something and then sending a message to support and saying, hey, can you rush this actually, because we're out, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of decrease some of your costs on that front as well.
Cool. I love that idea with the sense of like splitting the list between people who like shop without a promo code and like because I'm such a shopper sometimes when I'm like, oh, they're gonna send me an abandoned cart promo code, like thinking about that for
Yeah.
certain like brands. But then sometimes I know like they know I'm gonna buy, so I know even though it's in my cart, I don't get that, but I know they do that. But that's such a and I never thought about that in the sense of because even I mean, you could do that with email, and then a lot of brands now do that with like text, obviously, because that's the easy way, especially if they're shopping online. But yeah, that's such a good point to like talk about. Another question I have for you is in terms of, and I know this might be something that you might not like be completely able to do,
Sure.
but can you show an example of something that like you guys have done of like a e-commerce brand using that Shopify and HubSpot integration? And if you can't do that, that's totally fine. But what my question would be, or with that, I guess you could say, is just I feel where people get confused is like the look of the actual like website.
Yeah.
HubSpot, like CMS, people are used to that with like B2B mostly, but I know it's done with other things because like we even have customers that are on HubSpot and they are like a retail brand, but it's different. It's different a thought because it's not talked about a lot. So I'd love for you to talk about that and like the wins on that because
Sure.
obviously I'm a big HubSpot fan, and this is a HubSpot user group, so it works for me. But I would love to just like educate people on that because that's really what this is about, and I'd love
Yeah.
for people to see like that real life example.
Absolutely. I have one that I can share. And
Yeah.
this is our formal case study on this is in progress. But this is a project. Let's see, this will come up for Palo Alto University. So this is all e-commerce. This whole site is HubSpot CMS. So everything you see here, the domain's concept.paloalto.edu. Concept is the the separate professional studies group. You don't have to have that on a subdomain. It could be www. It's totally fine. But this entire site, and this is a huge site. So I'll talk about some of the cool stuff that's going on here beyond just the checkout flow. But this entire site is all HubSpot CMS, and they sell courses. So this is a good example of what I was saying previously, which is you could be a student in the School of Professional, what is this actually called? Professional Studies, in the School of Professional Studies. And then you don't have to pay for any of this content. So we're actually doing dynamic content here as well. So if it was detecting I am a student, this is not going to tell me that I have a price. All of these are free. And if you are not a student, then you can buy individual pieces. So what this does is a couple things. So one is you have this whole homepage, but we also have all these different trainings and events and everything that's going on. And if we go look into one of these, and let's see if I know what I'm doing. All of these are actually HubSpot custom objects. So every single course is a custom object. Custom objects are related to teachers and professors who then show up on all of these cards, which is really cool. And so every time you go into one of these pages, this is actually dynamically generated by HubSpot. So there's all a custom object page. All of these are fields. So what's the date? Who are the presenters? How long is it? What's the fee? All of these are fields in HubSpot. So the other thing that's really cool about CMS is you can do hyper dynamic content. So for these guys, the main value is when they launch a new course, they used to have to go and curate all of that, create it in their system, go and like create a task for the web team to go update the website. And then when the course is inactive, you have to go through the whole same workflow. All of that's done out of HubSpot now. And so they just create and manage the course production process from HubSpot. And then when the course is deployed and ready to go on the site, they change the status, and then this page just exists now. It gets automatically generated.
That's awesome.
So when they go to register for something, this is all CMS Hub, but I'm adding stuff. I've clearly added other stuff to my cart. So it's also remembering me, right? So I'm storing what are all these things I want to add to cart. And all of this is Shopify checkout. So this is all served by CMS Hub, but the back end that's managing what is my cart, what are the items, what is my total is all managed by Shopify. And when I go to actually check out, this is still a CMS page. And this is where we talk about sort of this registration flow, where we're now capturing who are the participants that are going to be in all of these courses. We're then generating those back into HubSpot. I don't think I can go forward unless I started filling some of these out. But the key here is that this is the front end of this is all CMS, but we're using Shopify APIs on the back end to control and manage that checkout flow. So this site, and I think this is a really good example of like this site's huge. There are thousands of trainings on here. Like some people think of, and I think misrepresent HubSpot CMS as like, oh, this is for SMBs to do these different pieces. This is a major university. This is a huge e-commerce site. And this project has thousands of courses, Shopify integrations. We have some LMS stuff going on here on the back end as well. And you can do really cool stuff. And then they also are using memberships. So when you go to actually, you can log in, you're now coming back here and you're able to log into the site, which then controls what courses you have access to and how much you should be paying for them. Yeah, all of those pieces.
Cool. That's so cool. I mean, and I think about it even too, just in like the retail, like the brand space that you could do with like dynamic content. And because we always talk about the shopper's like journey, and it's like, you get targeted ads on like social, obviously, for things, but having that custom kind of flow to get, like if they're really buying shoes all the time, that next time maybe like have an accessory to go with the shoes or things like that. Because for me, during COVID, obviously I didn't go to the mall. I'm such a shopper, but I also love shopping online, and I love the brands that do that kind of curation of me, like, so it makes me feel like they know me, and then I'll spend more money with them, you know. And they obviously do technically know me with all my actions on their site. Maybe like maybe
they know you better than
like I know it, but I love it. I'm like, tell me what I want and need. That'll be great, you know. And it's really awesome that you're doing that with that e-commerce like education side of it, because especially in the space of like with custom object, with membership. Because there's so many brands out there too that you need a membership to get different pricing, you know, like
pricing, promos. I mean, we see this. It's interesting because we're seeing this across lots in like design, so home design, interior
Mhm.
design, restoration hardware, right? Huge e-commerce
Yep.
company, huge physical commerce company. They have different pricing if you're a designer and you're a
Mhm.
member with RH, and they have different pricing if you're, a commoner like us.
Yep.
But the other we're seeing, so another good example, we're working on a project right now for a major cruise line, and they're super interesting because, and I think that this is true, and I challenge anyone that is in this space to think about, do I have different audiences that interact with us? And like,
Mhm.
the answer is yes, but
Yeah.
you probably treat everybody the same way right now. And so what's really interesting for this cruise line on their web project is we're actually going to be able to serve a completely different web experience to people who are booking cruises for themselves and people who are booking cruises and are travel agents and booking on behalf
Mhm.
of other people, and show different pages and different tools and different resources to both of those audiences. And
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that they have to go through this whole like, oh, well, log into our travel agent portal. Like, the site's the travel agent portal. It's all the
Yep.
same.
Mhm.
And so the more you can customize, and I think that's where CMS Hub is such a strong solution. And you can really patch for some of the things that it's not as strong at and still deliver a really amazing e-commerce experience.
Mhm. That's so awesome. Does anybody else have other questions for Connor? If not, you can always reach out to him, I am sure, or me, whoever. I'll like do like 2 minutes for you guys to like write. If not, I can still ask Connor questions because I could ask questions all
Yeah,
day. So, well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Connor, for
absolutely.
your knowledge and everything like that, because I think this is a topic that is not talked about a lot, especially in the HubSpot world. And
Sure.
I'm super excited to partner like with different people to bring this to light, because I feel it's a game changer, especially I feel like too with like luxury brands, because those people who are constantly shopping at those brands, they should like be getting a, not, I shouldn't say discount, but special price.
Yeah,
And that's hard to do on other software companies uh, platforms. So I
yeah,
feel this is really cool. Thank you so much again, Connor.
absolutely.
And thank you for the wonderful audience we had today. And
Absolutely.
you guys were awesome. So thanks for your questions. And I am going to say peace out, and we'll see you next hug. Awesome.